Welcome back to another best free hit team video ahead of Double Gameweek 29. There are going to be some controversies, let's say, and it's impossible to appease everybody, but this is going to be a very solid 11. We're even going to have some good bench players for Double Gameweek 29, and this could even form part of a bench boost team. Of course, you don't have to use all your budget on a free hit. It's all about your starting 11, but sometimes it's good to have those one or two decent players on your bench just in case. But because it's a double game week, you don't really expect anyone to miss out from your starting 11, and that's why it's very important to wait until the deadline before confirming your transfers. Try to do it as close to the deadline as possible, of course. Don't leave it too late at the same time. But if you're not enjoying this video, be sure to drop it a like. Let's try to get this to over 300, and we're going to keep on pushing towards 20,000 subscribers and more goals in the future. But without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. I have opted for David De Gea, and David Raya will be the backup in this instance, but these kind of algorithms like Fantasy Football Hub, FPL.team, they all favour the likes of Kepa over David De Gea. So let me know your thoughts. In terms of a goalkeeper for Double Gameweek 29, who would be your favourite? Who do you back to get one, maybe two clean sheets and some bonus/saves in the process? But I've gone for David De Gea, and in terms of my normal team and someone to have for the long term, I'd rather have Luke Shaw, but there's not much to separate him or David De Gea to cover Man United defensively. So I have gone for De Gea in this instance, but if you want someone a bit more long term on the wild card or other kind of squads, then De Gea might not be my favourite goalkeeper, despite the fact that he is a good choice and deserves an honourable mention for Double Gameweek 29. And you could even start Raya over him. I think both teams have some difficult fixtures in 29, but I think United's are slightly better, and I do see a clean sheet there for the Red Devils, and I think David De Gea is a solid goalkeeping option. I've gone for something a bit different this week. We're only going to go for 3 defenders in the starting 11, and there are some key absentees like Luke Shaw, even Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, who you could even put over the likes of Castagna. You know my thoughts on Leicester defensively. I think they're pretty awful, and despite those great fixtures, Castagna isn't someone I'd like to start. He's really here on the bench, a cheap option, an enabler. He can still get points, of course, and ultimately, no matter who you put on your bench, you'll probably have some hauls there, and it will be a bit frustrating to see. But Castagna's just here, just as an honourable mention. If you want to go for a Leicester defender, it would either be him or Ricardo Pereira, who's especially good in terms of bonus points, but Leicester aren't great, and even against Palace and Aston Villa, I just don't see where the clean sheets are going to come from. The ones you really want to start include Ben Chilwell, who's got some great home fixtures as well. Even that Liverpool game, I could see a draw, maybe a 0-0, and that would certainly be ideal. And of course, you can decide to double up on Chelsea defensively with Kepa Arrizabalaga and Chilwell. Those would be my favourites, even over the likes of Reece James. So Chilwell does feature, and he will be in the starting 11 here. Let's see how his minutes are managed as well. And with the Champions League 2 on the horizon, when the Real Madrid game approaches, you would expect some rotation potentially in the league for the likes of Chilwell, Reece James, and a few other key assets there for Chelsea. So that could be a problem. But for Gameweek 29, I'd be fairly confident of Chilwell getting the minutes necessary for those returns. Then we've got Trippier. He's always in these videos, but he is not a mainstay or essential, and you could go for other options instead. But I have to say the defenders is probably the area I'm least confident about in Double Gameweek 29. Probably as a result of what happened in Blank Gameweek 28 when I started 5 defenders and got 0 returns amongst them and my goalkeeper in Kepa Arrizabalaga. And then we've got Estupinian, who's one of my favourite defenders in recent weeks. As we cover in the transfer tips video, he is the highest scoring defender since Gameweek 20, and the only concern is whether he will start the first game of 29. And as I've said in all these videos, I'm quite confident that he will. And then we've got Kurt Zouma, another decent cheap option with 2 home fixtures, and you're really backing that Southampton game as a really good chance for a clean sheet there for West Ham, who haven't kept enough all season, but they have had some good performances here and then. It's just been far too inconsistent. They won 4-0 in the Europa Conference League. If they can build upon that performance, then we could see some returns for the likes of Zouma, Jarrod Bowen, Ben Rama, and a few other assets like Areola. And this is a good back 5. It's not the best on paper, but remember, you only have to start 3 or 4, and in this case, we're going to go for a back 3. It's impossible to cover every single option, especially in the midfield, and I think the key omission here would be Mohamed Salah. You can go for him over someone like Solly March and then maybe go for Jason Steele as your goalkeeper, but this midfield 5 is very solid. It will do the job, and you can't even cover the single gimmick options like Bukayo Saka, who could do extremely well this week, even Martinelli against Leeds as well. But this midfield 5 will do the job for you. James Maddison, 2 great games. He's got a bit of a suspension risk in the long term, but that won't be an issue in Gameweek 29. He's on 8 yellow cards, 2 more, and he will be suspended. So that will be more of an issue for Game Week 30 onwards. You've got Bruno Fernandes as well. He's been fantastic since the World Cup, and 3 of his 4 double-digit returns have come since Game Week 20. So he's got explosive potential. He even scored a brace against Fulham. So keep an eye out for Bruno Fernandes in this double game week. And it will be a question for some of you to go for either Maddison or Bruno Fernandes. I think if money isn't an issue, then I'd probably go for Bruno. The reason why I'm considering James Maddison for my own team selection is because it also makes it easier to bring Haaland back in Game Week 30 whilst keeping Harry Kane, which is also a priority of mine, but that could certainly change as we approach the 1st of April. Then we've got a double up in Brighton midfield. I do like it. Some of you are even going for a triple up. That's completely fine. I think 2 would be my maximum in terms of midfielders, and I think a triple up in Brighton overall is definitely advisable because they could have a double in 31 as well as this double in 29, which is fairly decent, and Brighton have been very impressive in recent weeks. They're in the FA Cup semi-final as well, so I think they're going to go strong in the Premier League still and do pretty well in the FA Cup, and they have some very good options in every single position, but particularly in the midfield and the defence. And then the last midfielder is Marcus Rashford. He is still an injury out, of course, at the time of this recording. I'd be fairly confident he'll be available for Game Week 29, and he's a great captaincy option. The same can be said for any single one of these midfielders, but in particular, Bruno Fernandes. Whilst 3 of my favourite forwards don't feature in this video, I think this front 3 makes perfect sense and there are no kind of risks in Game Week 29. They all have 2 games and there are some pretty good ones at that, especially with Chelsea, 2 home fixtures against Villa and Liverpool. So Kai Havertz does feature, but you can also go for Erling Haaland, who's got a groin injury at the moment, but you would expect him to be fit against Liverpool and he could easily outscore any double game week forward in the game. We all know that. So you can go for Haaland instead of Havertz, or maybe another striker like Harry Kane. There are so many different choices every single week, but this front 3 should do the job for you. And the other key omission is Ivan Toney, and he is a bit of a suspension risk. So if you don't really want to bring him in, I do understand that. The reason why he did feature in other squads like the best bench boost team is because around 40% of managers own Ivan Toney, and I don't think it's worth selling because he easily could haul in these 2 games. If you're completely convinced he's going to be booked against Brighton, then fair enough, you can sell him to someone like Isak, but I think Ivan Toney could go through that game unscathed, and as a result, he is a great option in double game week 29 as well. And if you can play both games, I think he outscores Havertz. That's just my personal opinion. But to be safe for this free hit team, I've gone for the German. He's been in great form recently, a return in each of his last 3 games across all competitions with 2 penalties and 3 goals overall. Isak has also done extremely well in the Premier League in the last few game weeks. He's also a contender for Player of the Month, and he's got some good fixtures long term, could have a double in 31. And I do like Isak. He's been very impressive whenever he has played, whether it's off the bench or starting games. We've discussed this in the transfer tips video as well. If you're looking for a forward, look no further than Isak. He should be first choice over Callum Wilson, and you just have to hope that he stays injury free. And the last forward is Ollie Watkins. The fixtures aren't that great, but I think Villa will score plenty of goals in both of these games, and also in the long term if you want a striker for Game Week 30 and beyond. And Aston Villa have been very impressive since Unai Emery has taken over, and Ollie Watkins has been the best asset out of all of them. So whilst I don't favour them defensively and I don't see clean sheets, I can see Aston Villa scoring goals. Even if they lose the game or if they drop points, I still think Ollie Watkins is a solid option in the front line. And whilst I would love to have Haaland and Harry Kane as well in this free hit team, it's impossible to cover everybody. And remember, we have to bench some of these players and it's going to be very difficult. But now let's go to FPL.team. Let's see what the algorithm suggests and also some of my personal preferences for the starting 11 and the captaincy. Captaincy isn't straightforward this week. My current preference is with Marcus Rashford, but FPL.team and other algorithms do slightly prefer Bruno Fernandes as the highest scoring player in double game week 29, and they also favour Havertz over Isak for the starting 11, but I'd rather go for the Swedish international, who has been very impressive in recent weeks, and I think it's a bit more sustainable than Kai Havertz. But of course, that's all down to opinion. Let me know if you disagree. If you look at that bench, that could easily score 20 or 30 points, and we've got 10.1 million left in the bank. If you want to fill up the money, you can go for Mohamed Salah in the midfield over Solly March. You can also go for Erling Haaland in the forward line, but you have to bench some of these players eventually. So let me know what you would do on the free hit. I think it's a very tricky one this week, probably the most difficult of any to decide who to bench on the free hit, because you're going to have points and you can't use the bench boost at the same time. Only 1 chip per game week, so this will be a bit of a conundrum to say the least. And I think a bench boost squad, I mean, this could make a very good bench boost squad. Let's be quite honest here. It would easily score, in terms of the predicted points anyway, around 130 or 140. And this starting 11 is already good enough as it is. So we've gone for a back three here. And I think some key absentees in each position would include Kepa in goal, probably Luke Shaw in the back line. You've also got Salah in the midfield, and in the forward line, Erling Haaland and Harry Kane, not to mention the likes of Bukayo Saka and Martinelli, who could do very well against Leeds United. So let me know your thoughts on the best free hit team. What would you change? We have covered all of the key options in all of these videos, and we've also discussed some others that haven't been mentioned in this video per se, but they are definitely some that we have covered already. And there are so many different teams doubling with 12 overall, and it's just impossible to cover every single one of them in the best way possible. But I think these are the key assets, and I have mentioned a few honourable choices as well, and it's just completely down to you what you predict for Double Gameweek 29 and which players you think are a priority to buy in every single one of these positions. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to over 300 likes. Let's keep on pushing towards 20,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below. I would encourage you to do so. The Twitter, Instagram, the Discord server, the channel memberships, the Patreon, and also the FPL League. All of that stuff is there. I wish you all the best of luck for Gameweek 29 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.